Welcome to Tokyo Wave, recorded in a live studio in Harajuku, Japan, with your hosts Aaron and Parker. Alright everyone, welcome to episode 70 of Tokyo Wave. We're your hosts Aaron Randall
and Parker Allen. On Tokyo Wave, we bring you weekly updates from our studio in Harajuku.
Join us in segments featuring this week's top news,
political happenings,
business,
and other random garbage.
To get us started, here are this week's top news highlights.
Suga says he will not run in upcoming LDP election, effectively ending his term as Japan's prime minister.
Foreign matter in Moderna COVID vaccine identified as stainless metal.
Central Japan city of Kakegawa becomes country's first green tea liqueur special zone.
This week in Japan. Alright, so our first story. Suga says he won't run an upcoming LDP election, effectively ending his term as Japan's prime minister.
The Mainichi has reported that Prime Minister Yoshihide Suga on September the 3rd announced that he will not run in the upcoming Liberal Democratic Party presidential election scheduled for September 29th, effectively declaring he will step down as prime minister.
The announcement came during an ad hoc executive meeting of the LDP on September 3rd. Suga's term as party president is set to expire at the end of this month. He had been planning to reshuffle LDP executives and shake up his cabinet.
But in conclusion, it was him who got reshuffled. The Suga cabinet's support ratings have been sagging recently due to its response to the coronavirus pandemic, among other issues. Voices had been mounting within the ruling coalition that the LDP wouldn't fare well in the coming House of Representatives election with Suga at its helm. Former LDP policy chief Fumio Kishida earlier announced his intention to run in the party leadership race, among other potential candidates.
Since assuming office, Suga's initial strategy had centered on winning the lower house election by accelerating COVID-19 vaccinations and making the Tokyo Olympics a success, as well as on being re-elected in the LDP presidential election.
However, the pandemic has shown no signs of abating, and public frustrations have built up after the government repeatedly extended and expanded the state of emergency over the coronavirus, asking people to refrain from going out and other activities. Even after the Tokyo Olympics, approval ratings for the Suga cabinet failed to pick up.
The ruling party struggled in a string of elections this year, including a triple loss in by-elections and a repeat election in April to fill in vacant seats in the Diet and the Tokyo Metropolitan Assembly election in July. In the Yokohama mayoral election in August, a candidate fully backed by Prime Minister Suga suffered a crushing defeat. These adversities led many in the ruling coalition to call for replacing Suga as party head.
And none of those losses, I'm sure, hurt worse than losing the Yokohama election. Obviously, Suga wasn't running himself, but he might as well have been, given that Yokohama is his hometown. So maybe this is something that had been brewing behind the scenes, but still this is a shocking piece of news, as literally until today, nobody who I know in any circles had any knowledge that Suga was planning to step down.
Yeah, definitely just throwing in the towel,
Suga had been looking to keep his grip on power by reshuffling the LDP leadership as well as his cabinet, and then, after doing so, dissolve the lower house in mid-September ahead of the LDP presidential election, potentially delaying that divisive election in the process. However, after this plan met a fierce backlash from within the LDP, Suga ended up ruling out the possibility of an early lower house dissolution when speaking to reporters as late as September the 1st. At the time, he said simply, it's not a situation where we can dissolve the lower house.
Suga served as chief cabinet secretary from the 2012 launch of the second Shinzo Abe administration until 2020. In September last year, Suga pulled off a sweeping victory in the LDP presidential contest held after Abe abruptly stepped down, becoming the 99th prime minister of Japan. Oh, so the next one's going to be the 100th.
Ooh.
Yeah.
While Suga advocated taking over the policies of the Abe administration, he treaded an unusual path in politics, being neither a hereditary legislator nor a member of any LDP faction. As Prime Minister, Suga's signature policy measures included digitization of government services and addressing loneliness and isolation issues.
I think he gets an F for both of those.
Yeah, it's unfortunate because the digitization side actually seems to be getting off to a good start. From September the 1st, there is a new digital agency within the government of Japan, which has set up shop in a gleaming office building in Nagatacho, and it's headed by an outsider, popular professor Yoko Ishikura.
What makes it digital and not just a regular agency?
Well, so basically what the digital agency aims to do is put together all of the digitization movements within different ministries in one centralized ministry.
Gotcha.
So essentially, it's a government-wide digitization effort versus an effort from the Ministry of Economy, a different effort from the Ministry of Agriculture, a different effort from the Ministry of Internal Affairs and Communications. Sounds like a good idea, right?
Yeah. Not bad.
But other than that, obviously, I think a lot of the policies of the Abe administration kept on trucking along. The one policy that I think a lot of people see as Suga's signature policy, and that is the push towards having these integrated resorts, which is, of course, the fancy PR-friendly name for casinos.
Right. Yeah.
That, of course, is continuing to happen, but the progress is somewhat uncertain and stunted as a result of the continuing unpopularity of these bids. And of course, that led to the poor result in the Yokohama election as well, where the opposition candidate was vehemently against bringing a casino to Yokohama.
That will definitely be a polarizing issue going forward.
So, Suga's out. Who is in?
Number 100. Who's it going to be?
So, there's only one guy who's raised his hand officially thus far, and that is Mr. Kishida. And he, of course, has a history of running. Of course, he ran against Suga last year and lost to Suga. I don't think he's going to win.
Why not?
Because there are other candidates who have not raised their hand who would be much stronger. Namely, Kono Taro.
Ah, okay.
Who I would say Taro Kono, but then he would subtweet me. So you have to call him Kono Taro.
Yeah. He's, become quite popular recently.
Well, it's a bit of a mixed bag recently because most recently he's been in charge of the coronavirus vaccine rollout, which has been widely criticized. So on that side, people within the LDP, and of course the LDP presidential election may decide the prime minister, but it is not a national popularity contest. It is a internal LDP popularity contest. So his ability to curry favor with key people within the LDP, namely the 3 A's, will decide whether he has a shot at getting the catbird seat and being number 100.
Wait, so who are the 3 A's?
I'm glad you asked that. The 3 A's are Abe, Aso, and Amari.
Ah, okay.
So obviously the former prime minister, who still has a lot of influence within LDP politics, as one would imagine. Vice Prime Minister Taro Aso, the Teflon Don of all things backroom dealy, and Amari, who is the LDP policy chief and really the brainchild of a lot of the key policies that the LDP wants to make happen.
Gotcha.
So basically, as the current intelligence tells us, the 3As will influence who gets to be the next prime minister, number 100.
You know, Americans would probably hate me for saying this, but I actually like that they have a little bit of influence, you know? I don't think we have that so much in the States. It's like as soon as the president's out, you know, they're out, right?
It's interesting, and I really wonder what's going to happen to Suga post-prime ministership. You know, will he sort of fade into obscurity, or does he also have some sort of a post-prime ministership angle?
He's a painter. He's going to paint some pictures for us.
That would be interesting.
I think, didn't George Bush? Yeah, I think he became like
he became a painter. Yeah, that's right.
He did some like hobbyist paintings and
that's
stuff.
Crazy.
There's like photos of him.
Yeah. Maybe he'll open up a pancake shop in Nagatacho.
That would be awesome.
Uncle Suga's Flapjacks.
Lots of security.
He's trying to steal the maple syrup. Get him.
Oh my god.
Up next, foreign matter in Moderna COVID vaccine identified as stainless metal.
Kyoto News has reported that the foreign matter found in some lots of Moderna Inc.'s vaccine distributed but suspended from use in Japan was confirmed to be stainless steel that was mixed during the manufacturing process.
The substance was likely blended due to friction between two pieces of metal installed in the production line, which was caused by an inappropriate setup, according to a probe by U.S. drug maker Moderna and Takeda Pharmaceutical, the vaccine's distributor in Japan.
Stainless steel is used in such products as heart valves and joint replacements.
And apparently not the COVID vaccine.
Yeah, you don't want that.
There's no steel in the vaccine.
You don't want that, except for the steel and the microchips.
Yeah, I mean, other than that, right?
Yeah.
The two companies said in a joint statement, it is not expected that injection of the particles identified in these lots in Japan would result in increased medical risk. But they also added that injecting metallic particles into a muscle may cause a local reaction.
So 3 lots of vaccine doses have already been suspended from use in Japan since the foreign matter was found last month. There are no other lots affected by the manufacturing issue at a plant in Spain, and Takeda said it will start recalling the 3 lots.
The suspension of the doses came as Japan is speeding up its vaccination drive to curb surging coronavirus cases, especially among younger generations whose vaccination rates are still low.
In August, 2 men in their 30s died after they received their dose of the Moderna vaccine that was one of the 3 lots. Well, I mean, you know, when you're getting the vaccine here in Japan, they're like obnoxious about the potential side effects, right?
Yeah, they make you sign a waiver.
Dude, I had to sign like 3.
Whoa.
I had to sign 3 different documents, and each time they gave me the same speech. They talked about like all the potential like very scary things that could happen, and I'm like thinking, man, like, you know, I'm like a fairly nervous person, and this is stressing me out. Like, I could imagine someone, but I don't mind taking shots and vaccines. Like,
that's funny that you mentioned that, because, you know, I got my double dose and they didn't do that to me at all.
I think
they just handed me this form and I'm like, check. Where's my vax?
They were crazy with me and
Wow.
with everyone else in this. I was in, you know, one of the designated like distribution centers, like at the local like community center, cultural community center, whatever. Yeah, and I think like 4 times I had it explained to me, and I'm like thinking, man, like, you know, I'm pretty okay with shots. Like, someone that's not okay with shots would be running away really quick, like, or having a panic attack. You know?
This sounds like the Windows dialog box. Are you sure that you don't want to save?
Yeah.
So the drug makers said there is no evidence that the deaths were related to the administration of the vaccine and that the relationship is currently considered coincidental.
The Ministry of Health, Labor, and Welfare said last month that foreign substances had been found in 39 unused vials at 8 vaccination sites in 5 prefectures. The discovery led the ministry to halt the use of around 1.63 million doses under the 3 lot numbers, which came from the same production line at the Spanish plant.
Over 100 million people in 45 countries have received doses of the Moderna vaccine, according to the companies.
Yeah, this is also kind of showing like just how risk averse Japan is. I mean, they're going to dump out 1.63 million doses of this life-saving vaccine. You know,
they did find metal in it.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a tough one, though. I mean,
yeah,
it's
think about the guy who's responsible for that. Wonder what kind of phone call he got.
Wow.
Yeah. This is a very like isolated incident, right? You know, don't want to scare people too much.
Well, there's always the Pfizer vaccine.
Exactly. Which, I mean, has there been any like big reported stuff with Pfizer? Like, I haven't. Everything I hear is with like other branded name vaccines.
Yeah, I mean, it's, I hate to say it, but I feel like, you know, all of the other stuff that's come out about all of the other vaccines, Pfizer has been mostly acrimony free, right? And so I think as a result, it must be great sales materials for them because, you know, I think especially Japan, I mean, we got approval for AstraZeneca, but we're not even using it. We gave it all to Taiwan or something.
Yeah. But it is these edge cases that really cause a lot of panic and worry about the vaccine, which I think on a macro scale really exacerbates our current situation of the global pandemic and slows down our potential recovery from all this. So
I mean, in the trying to find a silver lining category, you have to think, if the government was going to try and just sweep everything under the rug, certainly they wouldn't have let this seen the light of day. So I think this does communicate very strongly that the government is trying to be transparent about issues like this and obviously is taking the matter very seriously.
I mean, they threw away 1.63 million doses. I just can't get over that. If that doesn't communicate they're taking it seriously, I don't know what does, you know?
How do you throw away 1 million vaccines?
Great question. All right, and up next, central Japan city of Kakegawa becomes country's first green tea liqueur special zone.
The Mainichi has also reported that a central Japan city has become the country's first green tea liqueur special zone in which legal hurdles are lower for small businesses to make liqueur using green tea, and a local manufacturer is aiming to launch a champagne-like green tea drink around March of next year.
Extract from high-quality tea leaves grown in the city of Kakegawa, one of the largest tea-producing cities in Japan, is used for the product being developed by Matsushita Tea Garden, which plans to sell 1,500 liters of the drink with around 12% alcohol by volume in the first fiscal year that its liqueur goes on sale. The producer has already developed a sparkling liqueur using high-quality tea extract mixed with an alcoholic beverage and carbonating it.
The Kakegawa municipal government applied to become a special zone on May 11th, and the Japanese government gave approval on July the 20th. In the special zone, which covers the entire city, the minimum annual volume of green tea liqueur that must be produced to obtain an alcohol manufacturing license has been lowered from 6,000 liters to 1,000 liters. This way, even small manufacturers can obtain a license.
The city has been striving to promote tea, with the municipal assembly passing the Ordinance to Toast with Green Tea in March 2019. While the consumption of pricey green tea brewed in teapots has dipped, consumption of tea in the form of soft drinks that can be made with cheap ingredients is on the rise. Under such circumstances, crude tea trading prices remain stagnant and tea farmers find themselves in dire straits. They therefore need to come up with new products that will spur renewed tea demand.
So I actually went to this region somewhat recently and heard this situation directly from the tea farmers.
Oh, wow.
I got to read the tea leaves. It was great. So the deal is all of the tea that we drink in pet bottles that we buy at convenience stores and in vending machines is basically, like, to put it in sort of rude terms, crap tea.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm not surprised. Like, even I love the mugicha. I forget the name of the brand, but I drink it all the time. But when you get the mugicha that's like, made fresh, like with actual like...
Oh, it's totally different.
Oh, God, yeah. It tastes so good.
Well, obviously, if you're making things with this massive volume, the quality becomes less important than the ability to have a stable supply.
Right.
And at the end of the day, one of the nice things about expensive tea is the sort of individual flavor of each batch. Mm-hmm. Whereas when you're creating a product that is mass market, it just needs to be consistent.
Right.
So even if you had the best tea, the cream of the crop, you don't want your product to taste different than it usually does. People might think that it's spoiled or different. Mm-hmm. And so obviously the best tea, or ichibancha, traditionally is going into the sort of products that you would find in department stores, or gifts that are given among business associates or colleagues, the sort of oseibo, ochugen season. However, due to the pandemic, this sort of culture has waned, and at the same time, people are not buying tea for their own consumption much at department stores either. Then, of course, there's the larger macro trend where in recent years, older people who are the main consumers of tea that you brew are not drinking as much. And younger people who are drinking tea are mainly drinking these convenience store or vending machine sourced pet bottled products.
Right.
So very unfortunately, the demand for the good tea is low. The demand for the not so good tea is high.
Right.
But obviously, the not so good tea is not a cash cow for these local farmers who focus on getting a premium price for their best product.
Right. I still remember, my first time in Japan, and even the pet bottle tea was just such a delicacy because I had never tasted flavors like that before, all the different kinds.
It's funny. The first time I remember being so repulsed by anything that was in a plastic bottle was when, after I got used to drinking bottled green tea in Japan, going back to the United States, seeing it at the supermarket, bottled green tea, thinking, cool, I'll try what American bottled green tea looks like. Crack it open, take a gulp, spew it out all over the place because it's sweet.
Oh, it's so sweet.
It's sweet and green too. It's the grossest stuff I've ever had.
Man, it's maybe the same in Tennessee, but down in Florida, sweet teas everywhere, like the Arizona iced tea. I remember...
Well, black tea tastes great sweet.
Right. But
green tea tastes like... sweet.
Yeah. I remember I was so used to sweet tea just all around, and coming to Japan and having it not be sweet, there was like a zen thing to it, like it was just very relaxing to drink. I don't know.
So Aaron, do you know the difference between green tea and black tea?
No, what's the difference?
Same plant.
Really?
Yeah.
So what's going on there?
I think green tea is fresher
Oh, really? Okay.
I think they harvest it, and I think the black tea is dried or something.
Oh, so like when it's ripe or something.
Something like that.
If you're listening to this and we're completely wrong, shoot us a tweet and let us know.
Tea.
Yeah. There's got to be some tea experts out there. All right, and coming up next on Tokyo Panic Room, we're going to talk about Japan's plan to ease alcohol bans even during a state of emergency.
You're now listening to Tokyo Wave.
Tokyo Panic Room.
The Mainichi has recently reported on a new rough draft of the Japanese government's roadmap for relaxing restrictions on people's movements and behavior in coronavirus endemic areas by around October or November, based on vaccine rollout progress that would reinstate alcohol service even during states of emergency.
The draft includes approval for restaurants to serve alcohol if they have taken infection countermeasures, even if they are located in areas where a state of emergency has been declared. It also approves prefectural border crossing by vaccinated people, even in a state of emergency. In announcing these plans, the government is expected to attract controversy because many experts have argued a hasty relaxation of rules could trigger further infections.
In June, the Japan Business Federation, or Keidanren, requested restrictions be relaxed for vaccinated people involved in economic activities. The government's Coronavirus Countermeasures Subcommittee, headed by Shigeru Omi, is set to compile its recommendation for release as early as September 3rd. The government will announce a roadmap based on this recommendation and other documents.
Its rough draft reads, as the vaccination rollout moves forward, the spread of infections can be controlled to a certain extent, on the assumption that basic infection prevention measures are carried out. It goes on to say that infection control could be compatible with efforts to revive socioeconomic activities. Based on this premise, it is the government's plan to reduce and relax restrictions on behavior around October or November, when people wishing to be vaccinated will have been by then.
The government will use vaccination certificates or negative coronavirus test results to grant permission for eased restrictions. It will recommend PCR tests, which are relatively accurate, as well as accept results from basic qualitative antigen tests certified as medical instruments. Public funds will not pay for these tests.
The draft roadmap incorporates relaxed restrictions for areas under a state of emergency and quasi-state of emergency measures. Eateries accredited by a third-party body and taking infection countermeasures will be able to serve alcohol, and restrictions on their business hours will be eased. Caps on numbers that can dine together will be relaxed or removed altogether for people vaccinated or testing negative for the coronavirus. Capacity limits for major events will be eased if infection countermeasures are taken.
The government will not ask people, including those vaccinated, to refrain from going out or traveling across prefectural borders, and it will also consider resuming the domestic tourism promotion Go To Travel campaign.
Yes!
As a general rule, extracurricular activities at schools will be allowed as long as vaccinations and tests are used to determine safety.
Nice. Go to travel.
Go to school!
When they did Go to Travel last year, that was so awesome. I went to Kyoto, I went to Fukuoka. Oh my God. It was so cheap. I paid like nothing.
Last December, I think I spent the last applicable night.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
yeah. They were running it. I think it was like from early October till December.
It's like December I think it was the 27th or something.
That time block was when everyone thought it was going away. Corona was going away. I remember it felt so great to get on a plane again. You know, it's like, things are coming back to normal.
Nope.
If businesses fulfill a certain level of infection countermeasure conditions prior to October and November, restrictions on business hours and numbers allowed in their establishments will be partially relaxed. However, in the event that the medical system is expected to be overloaded by a sudden increase in infections, the government plans to reintroduce strict restrictions. Wow.
Strict restrictions. Oh, Lord.
I don't know. It's been so long, Parker. I just, when am I going to be able to feel safe going out to like an event, a bar, a party, and just not have to worry, you know? When?
Well, people in the state of Florida are already doing that.
Oh, yeah. They don't give a shit.
But unfortunately,
they're the epicenter of the pandemic in the U.S. right now. On Japanese TV, they had like a scatter plot, and it was like Florida was like the outlier.
Wow.
It had like just as many vaccinations as like the median of the other states. And all the Japanese commentators are like, how come Florida's like so bad? Why is this so bad?
No, I was talking to my parents earlier today, and my dad was watching football on TV. Mm-hmm. And, just to be snarky, I'm like, those stadiums are probably packed and full of people without masks, aren't they? And he said, of course, son. This is Tennessee.
The South.
Yeehaw!
Yeah, man. But hearing that they're, planning this kind of roadmap rollout for local businesses is very good. I remember visiting Kyoto, and a lot of the restaurant owners there told me this is 2020, summer of 2020. At that point, 1/3 had just shut down and were about to file for bankruptcy. So I can't even imagine now, over a year after, and still, the borders are closed, lots of restrictions everywhere, state of emergencies in lots of prefectures. Hopefully we can get back to some kind of state of normal, even if it's domestically first. That'd be awesome. Having go-to travel be enacted again.
Go-to travel. Yeah, I wouldn't mind some free coupons, but I don't know. I can't imagine it. It's such an alien idea that we'll be able to do things normally again.
Dude, the next time I get on one of those 12-hour flights back to the States or wherever, it's going to feel so wild. I'm going to be like, oh my God, I haven't done this in 2 years. It's going to be 2 years.
It's going to be 2 years.
That pisses me off.
That's
just thinking
crazy.
About it. Yeah. Hey, listeners, that's right. You listener right there.
Who do you think should be our next guest on Tokyo Wave? Let us know. Drop us a line at wave@tokyowave.jp.
We hope you enjoyed Tokyo Wave.
If you haven't already, you can subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, and YouTube.
Join us again next week on Tokyo Wave.